All right, so we're going to be looking at commission pay. What rate? It's really all over the board. So what rate should you be paying your salespeople? And here's some of the stuff we're going to cover in this video. What are the job duties of a salesperson? Should I pay a straight commission or a salary plus? What rate of commission should I pay based on residential retail sales? What rate of commission should I pay based on commercial sales? How often should I pay my salesperson? Like twice a month, once a week, that kind of thing. And what else should I consider when paying the salesperson? So we're going to try and cover everything that you would ask when you're trying to create your sales, your commission rate, your pay rate. So I think it's important first to identify the duties of the salesperson. That should be clear. And it's going to change based on the size of the business, quite frankly. The larger the business is, the more that you have a dedicated salesperson. The smaller the business is, it's not uncommon for a salesperson to jump on the forklift to load up an installer. Okay, they're doing more things and wearing more hats. That's just natural. Do they deserve more pay for that? I don't know. You know what? You're trying to take care of customers and get the job done. And at the end of the day, hopefully we're not measuring every little task in detail that they're doing. The goal is to be successful here. If they are in a young company like that, where they're doing a lot of things, well, as that company grows, they're on the top of the food chain. So hopefully they get that management role and the ability to, have that leadership role that maybe where they can command a little bit more money. All right, so the job duty of the salesperson is one, to present the customer with a price and sell the job. Follow up with the customer until they tell you they aren't interested. To prospect, I think it's a good, healthy thing for all salespeople to do a little bit of prospecting, going to networking groups on a regular basis. That's a healthy thing for them to do, to talk about the company, to talk about the products you carry and the services that you offer. That's a good thing for salespeople to do. It gets them out of the showroom. If you are generating so many leads that they don't have time, that's great. That's not necessary. But most of us in the small business category, we have time to do a little bit of networking. Things get slow, calling previous customers, being on social media from an entertainment standpoint, shoot the damn video, showing stuff that's new. They can do that kind of thing too, especially if they're naturally inclined to do it. So if they enjoy the social media, they enjoy that stuff. I mean, a lot of times it's not a matter of you have to do this. It's something fun, especially you got a good salesperson who's creative and they want to try some things. You want that creativity to shine wherever it can. Okay, is it their job to order the materials? Is it their job to schedule the installers? Is it their job to confirm the installers arrive the day before? I think those jobs are better suited for operations, but again, in a small company, it's not uncommon for people to wear all those hats and do all those jobs. As you start growing, you're going to want them to focus more on the sale and less on the operations and the function. You want your team to do a good job ordering materials, scheduling the install, confirming it, communicating. So you want them to do all that. Close out the job, probably regardless of how big you are. It's nice to have them close out the job, make sure the customers are happy, and get paid. Taking care of any hot sheets. A hot sheet is, okay, I'm missing a piece of trim. There's something wrong with the job that for some reason or another, we're not collecting the balance. And I call it a hot sheet because it's like, let's get this job done and get paid for. Also, it would be nice to get the job done for the customer standpoint, right? So you want to get things done and closed out. Again, a hot sheet is better off for the operations department to manage, but if you're a smaller company, then the salesperson might manage a hot sheet. And one of the reasons I call it a hot sheet too is I want that to be looked at daily by my team. So let's look at it daily until we get it off our plate. Come on, presentation. There we go. Job duties, I recommend you require. So some of the things I lay out for my salespeople: work the showroom during scheduled time, participate in weekly meetings, do some prospecting to include networking groups, go to the home show, measure. Oh, I'm sorry. Go to the customer's home, measure, and try and give a customer an opportunity to buy now. Close out their job and collect the balance if necessary. They should be following up, following up, following up. So jobs they didn't close, they should be following up. I don't recommend that they order the materials, that they manage their job from start to finish, and that again, your company's going to operate more efficiently with processes and people to handle those processes. So the job of ordering material, managing, I said it before, should be an operations manager. But if you got a company with less than 4 people, then that's not going to be uncommon for them to do some of those things. And as you grow, it'd be better if they were focused more on the sales, on the things I show above. Now, here's some of the options for how you pay them and when your salespeople get paid. And I'm working within the residential retail sales for most of this presentation. I will address commercial sales as well. So, does the way that you're paid, does the way you pay people influence their performance? If you pay them more money, or if you pay them more frequently, will that improve their performance? No, it's not. There's a lot of times that we believe it does. I've had multiple people reach out and say, if I change the way I pay them, will I get a better performance? Like, let's say if I move them from a structure where they're salary based, and if I move them to commission, will that help their performance? No, it just doesn't work. The way you pay them is not going to improve their performance. The only thing that's going to improve the salesperson performance is the way you manage your salespeople. By setting those expectations that you have, having weekly sales meeting, and reviewing the numbers. Keeping score is going to help improve their performance. Kind of like if you're watching a football game, if they paid the football players more money, will they play better? Not necessarily, but on top of that, what would happen if you didn't keep score of the game? Would they try as hard? Probably not. What would happen if you didn't keep score of win-loss records? Those people are probably not going to fight as hard to get to a Super Bowl if one doesn't exist, because one can't exist if you're not keeping score. So you have to keep score, okay? So some of the ways that you can pay them: you could pay them a draw plus commission. You could pay them commission against the draw. So commission against the draw would be, I'm paying them commission. I'll give them a draw as a safety net, but if I pay commission against the draw, sometimes I take their draw away in the future so that we're even as a company. I hate that system. So it makes people uncomfortable, nervous, and it's almost like a punishment if they don't reach a certain point, to have to dip into a draw and take money away from them to make up for money you paid them for a draw. A draw plus commission is not a bad way to go. You're just going to have to measure your commission differently. So if you are giving them a draw or a salary, you're going to have to pay less percentage commission. Or my favorite is pay a straight commission with a guaranteed minimum. I'm going to go over that. Other ways that you can pay them: are you going to pay them every week? Are you going to pay them every other week? Are you going to pay them twice a month? And now the difference is every other week, sometimes you're going to pay them 3 times a month. If you pay them twice a month, then you're only paying them twice a month. And we're going to go over the best practices after this slide. So you can pay them after the sale is made. You can pay them when the job is complete. You can pay them based off profit, or you can pay them based off the retail sale amount. All right, so those are all the options. It's crazy. Everybody does everything different in our industry. So what I'm here to do though is tell you what I believe is to be the best practice. And this is the way that I did it with our sales team. So it's the best practice for both cash flow, and I believe it's the fairest system and fairest way to pay the salespeople. I recommend that you pay a straight commission with a guaranteed minimum, and that you pay twice a month. I would pay after the job's been sold, not after money's been collected, the full balance. I would pay based on the retail sales amount. Okay, so it's a commission based on the retail sales. If the retail sales is $7,500, I give them $750. It's a simple formula. And I would pay them twice a month. So I pay on the 7th and the 22nd. And there's a reason I do that I'll get into. It's good cash flow practice. I pay commission in February for sales they made January. So I pay them for last month's sales. If you go 1 month at a time, we're going to guarantee a minimum pay. The likelihood they get into that guaranteed minimum is much, much less if we're measuring it 1 month at a time. Okay. So one of the other things we didn't track because of this pay system, I didn't track hours that they worked. I didn't track their sick pay, and we didn't track their vacation pay. Nobody was really even aware of what they worked. They were just paid a guaranteed minimum or commission, depending on how much they sold. And you are going to have to check with your local and federal laws. I don't know all the ins and outs of the laws. So this is the way we did it. This is the way I recommend that you do it. So you might have to make some adjustment based on the local laws. So I did this based on $15 an hour. It's not a lot of money, but all it does is it gives them a little bit of security. You can't have somebody working for you and not get paid. I don't care if they don't sell anything and they're blowing through leads. They can't be working in your store and not, even if they're not making sales. You can let them go eventually, but you can't not pay them. So I recommend you pay them a guaranteed of $15 an hour based on 52 weeks and the 40-hour week. That's $2,600 per month. Does that make sense? All right. So, and the way we break it down, they would receive $1,300 on the 7th and $1,300 on the 22nd. So why on the 7th and the 22nd? The 7th, it gives you time to do all the numbers and put enough money into your account to cover the payroll. And then the 22nd is the same amount of money 2 weeks later. So it really is a great way to manage your cash flow.
Hey, Jerry, I have a question.
Yeah.
I sub for a lot of years and I have my retail store now, and I swore that I would solve every salesperson issue when I had my own store, and it has proven to be a challenge.
Yeah.
But one of the things that would really frustrate me, especially we're subbing for lots of different stores, for lots of different salespeople, is I had some that were complete rock stars and some that just gave me nothing but trouble. And it would reflect on the clients and the whole experience, and it always bothered me that they were getting the same pay based off of how many sales they close as the people that were the total rock stars. And so I've just kind of thought, like, is it a culture thing, like we got to adjust it through culture, or should there be pay incentives for that? Do you have some ideas on that? Because I feel like that's just something that I've seen widespread, but it just seems like there is a big disparity there on who is actually giving the best experience and overall to the client, and basically your internal culture as well, like how well they benefit that as well.
Yeah. So you really want them to pay based on the commission, and you want it to be 100% commission, which ends up being 100% of you get what you're worth, exactly what you're worth, because you end up getting paid. I mean, nobody was in the base pay. If they're in the base pay, we're not going to keep them.
Yeah, well, what I mean is like, let's say two salespeople make $75,000 in sales in a month, and one of them is making lots of mistakes, creating a lot of hassle for everybody else, not really doing their due diligence. They're closing the sales, but they're not actually, you know, doing a good job on the quality part of their side. Maybe they're not setting expectations for the client, and so they're upset about things, but it never actually affects the bottom line as much. Like that's what would
Oh,
kind of
I
frustrate
would,
me, and I wondered if there's a solution to that. And I don't know
yeah.
if it's pay, but
Well, the solution is the weekly meeting. That's where you build your culture. And that's where you address those problems and things like that. And you do handle them one-on-one, but you do also handle it in front of the group. So maybe as a group, you guys can learn not to do certain things. But I would never allow somebody to affect my culture. I don't care how good a salesperson they are. And we fired or moved at least three $100,000 a month players. People that affected the culture, or they got promoted. So I would never allow, it's great to have a rock star, but I'm never going to be a prisoner to any employee. I don't want to be put in a position where somebody's sales are so detrimental to the company. Because when somebody affects the culture, I mean, you guys live there. You're there 8 to 10 hours a day, every day for weeks. And you can't work with somebody that negatively affects the culture, no matter how good their sales are. And it's such a relief when they leave, and you find real quickly you don't miss them, especially if you have good processes and systems. And for you in particular, you developed good processes and systems. So we end up relying on our process and system, not our people. I think you value your people, but you rely on your process and system. Is that fair?
yeah, it makes sense. I just, I had thought about connecting pay to it, but I'm just going like what you said. Is it just better just to address it through culture?
It
That
doesn't
was
work.
kind of my question as far as that one. I've always kind of just rattled that around my brain.
Yeah, pay doesn't work. And same thing with punitive solutions. Like if they keep screwing up, well, let's look at our system. Let's
Yeah,
not take the pay away because it's not necessarily going to fix. They're not making the mistakes on purpose. So you're not punishing them for taking, like you would your children, for taking candy when they weren't supposed to, or for smoking in the backyard, right? You're not punishing, you're punishing them for mistakes. Well, they're called mistakes. They're not called on purposes. They didn't screw up on purpose. So that's another reason why a punitive solution just doesn't work. Taking pay away doesn't solve the problem. It has to be solved on the weekly meetings, has to be solved with culture, and it has to be solved with the processes. So the question is, what's the process we can create to avoid this mistake? If this person's always making a mistake, then I would have somebody maybe double check their work. And maybe you do lower their commission a little bit to compensate for that person that has to check their work. But I would use that as a check and balance system. Let them continue being a rock star salesperson, but let's make sure that their jobs get done right.
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so I would pay, this is the recommended commission I have, is I would pay 10% of the retail sales price. Always do your job costing and strive for a 40% plus margin. If the margin falls below 37%, then pay an 8% commission rate. Many will pay a percentage off the profit. One of the things I don't like about that is it's a lot of work to track it. Now there's some really good software programs out there that will help you track that. I just never did it for the simplicity's sake. Not only is it difficult to track, but as a salesperson, I can look at this chart, which I make up this chart every week. Okay, and I'm going to look at their sales, their leads, total sold. We're going to measure their progress. Man, I can look at my sales. If I got 47,000, I got a 4,700 check coming. If I've got 59,000, I got a $5,900 check coming. It's just easy to see. And that's kind of motivating. And that kind of has an incentive to it that you do get excited when you have those big numbers. And also you get excited because you're comparing. Usually when you got a company of 4 or 5 people, there's one person that everybody hates. And that's the rock star. And everybody wants to beat the rock star. So your salespeople fight to beat that rock star. So your salespeople are fighting to make you more money. I love being in that position. So, they just enjoy it, and it's camaraderie. I mean, when I say they hate them, it really is kind of all in fun, and people will try to beat another salesperson's sales. So, I mean, talk about that being the incentive more than making more money. Oh man, they just want to beat that person's sales. They've never been number one. They want to be number one this month. So that kind of stuff is fun. That's influential, and it can help them go. But keep score of the game. All right, let's see how this works.
Hey, Jerry, real quick, what's a hot sheet? I'm not familiar with that term.
I explained it before. It's a hot sheet is what it is if you have a missing piece of trim, you need a little more material. There's something wrong with the job where you couldn't close it out. So you want to keep that hot sheet at your desk with that customer's name, information, what needs to be done. And we're looking at that every day until that job gets done. So I call that a hot sheet. And oftentimes the customer's holding a big balance on us for a $20 stick of trim. It's something usually insignificant, but whether it's significant or not, it should be looked at every day. And when I have an operations manager, I'll have the operations manager handle the hot sheets, not the salespeople. I had another client that had a lot of hot sheets. I normally don't have it here in my weekly reports. I just put it in there for a client that had a lot of hot sheets that they had to deal with. They didn't use that term either until I introduced it to them, but just something I made up when I face those problems. All right, let's see how this works with the commission. So Donnie had $20,000 in sales in January. He gets the guaranteed minimum of $2,600 in February. If Donnie goes a few months in a row like this, he's going to be fired. Can't have him burning through good leads. We're going to talk to him. We're going to work with him. We're going to try and improve it. If we can't, got to let him go. Okay. You don't owe Donnie anything, but you can't have somebody burning through leads that are expensive if he can't close those sales. All right. Christine did $59,000 in sales in January. She earned $5,900 in February. See, it's real easy to see. You can just, there's the sales, here's how much they earn. So she got $2,950 on the 7th and $2,950 on the 22nd. It's easy for them to see. It's easy for them to figure it out. It's easy for you to figure out payroll. Tim was a rock star. He did $125,000 in sales in January. He earned a whopping $12,500 in February. He's going to pay more in taxes than what Donnie earned. $6,250 on the 7th and $6,250 on the 22nd. Easy to manage, easy to understand. And we start the next month over and do it all over again. Does that all make sense? So other considerations that we have. What if they screw up on a job? Well, you reserve the right to take a commission from future pay. Okay, so maybe you don't find out about it because, again, we're paying them for sales they made in January. I'm going to pay in February for the sales they made, not necessarily tracking when the job's complete. Most cases, by the time their pay comes around, the job's been complete. We've had 2 to 6 weeks to complete the job. So oftentimes the company is paid in full. If you do see a problem, I could take it out of a future paycheck, and that should never go below their minimum. So if they're at their minimum, pay their minimum paycheck and take it off of a future paycheck. Again, what if they continue to sell under 26,000? You got to let them go. You're running a company, a business. You can't have them burn through leads. You got to check their closing rates. And if their closing rate is not up to snuff, they either need more training a better process, or you got to let them go. They don't need lower prices. Nobody needs to go with lower prices. All right. There's no reason for one person to be selling at lower prices and everybody else continue to sell at higher margins. What if the profit margin falls below 35%? Again, this is residential retail we're talking about. So you either got to do less commission or no commission. So you're going to have a conversation with them about it, and maybe a small amount of commission. So depending on where they're at with the profit margin and what the dollar amount is, you might have to make an adjustment. What if the profit margin's above 45%? Pay a bonus. We've given people bonuses if they got a profit margin above 45%. I think another consideration that's interesting is how much opportunity are they given? I talked to one guy who sells 250, 300,000. His commission is only like 6 or 7%. So he can earn a higher rate of commission working for somebody else. But the fact of the matter is he's not going to get that much opportunity to sell that much. So yeah, you can make 10 or 12% working for somebody else, but at the end of the day, your pay is going to be less. Also, in this person's case, he wasn't the one going out to the house and measuring. Somebody else went out and measured it. So all he had to do was work up the price. He never left the showroom. So maybe he doesn't earn a full 10% commission because his job and job requirements make it so he shouldn't earn that much. And their average profit margin was about 35%. So to continue being successful, you can't pay a 10% commission when your profit margins are closer to 35%. You got to pay a lower commission rate. So you got to consider what their job duties are. So some people have job duties that might require more compensation. So are they tracking the job from start to end? If they're really good at their job, or maybe they're a sales manager. If their job duty is that they sell and they're a sales manager, maybe you're going to pay them an extra % or 2 off of the total sales. So you got to consider their job duties when you consider how much you're going to compensate them and pay. So does it require less compensation? So if you have a professional measurer and they don't have to do as much work, then you shouldn't be paying 10% commission if they're not going out to the house, measuring and closing in the home. All right, let's talk about commercial sales. It really is different than residential retail. There's a lot of different nuances to it. For a new salesperson whose job it is to prospect, I think you'll want to pay them about $60,000 plus a year, maybe more, depending on if you have ongoing work that they're going to manage. But just as a baseline, about $60,000 a year or $5,000 per month. You got to be really careful of making the base pay too high, because if business slows down or the client doesn't pay, you could be stuck overpaying. So you got to keep that base down lower if you can, and give them those bonuses and incentives. So be careful with this pay. If I'm paying $5,000 per month, I'd still bonus them after they reach sales over $50,000 a month. And it might be lower. It might be 3% or 4 or 5%. I'd probably pay them when the job is paid for on commercial sales. I wouldn't pay based off the sale, because you are waiting on money in a lot of cases. So even if you complete the job, you're going to have to pay the supplier. You got to pay the installers. You might not want to pay the salesperson until you've been paid in full on a commercial basis. So like I say, since the margins are quite a bit lower, you have to keep the bonus or commission very low. So I'd also set them up under the same schedule and same pay structure as everyone else. And this is a mistake I make. I see all the time is people hire and pay salespeople different rates and different ways and different dates. I'm going to pay this guy every week, this person every other week, based on maybe that salesperson's asking for this. You can always say no. They have a choice. You have a choice. If you want to keep them, try to negotiate, work something out if you got somebody you like. But if you start getting all over the board, it's going to be very sloppy and complicated to run. And the sloppier it is and the more complicated to run, nobody's going to be successful. It's very hard to leave a business like that. It's hard to sell a business like that. It's hard to go on vacation. If you're always having to make payroll because somebody always has to get a paycheck, if you always have to manage it somehow, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. That's why this system of the 7th and the 22nd, it takes a lot of pressure off of you for payroll. Commission or bonus should be paid the month after it's been collected. So you can keep with a salary or something like that, but go ahead and pay any bonuses or commission the month after. So I would create a bonus structure. If they want to get paid faster, then have them help you collect the money faster. So they could be going after the money just as well. That could be part of their job duties. If you have a big client, they could be going after that client to get paid. Oh, I hear dinner cooking in the background. Oh boy. So some of you guys are ready for bed. We're just having dinner. Some rules in addition to what we already discussed. All right, some of the rules I have. So get to a point where you pay the next month or this month. In order to get to that point, you might have to compensate them the minimum pay. You can't let them go a month without pay. I created a system where I got them to pay plus some commission that they were owed to get them to that point where I could start this new system. So it's always a challenge to put in a new pay structure, but you just can't have them go a week, 2 or 3 weeks without a paycheck. And to get to that new structure, it might cost you money, and that might come out as a reward to them because it may be money that they didn't earn, but it's an investment for you to get to this kind of system if you're on a different system now. Okay. And that's something we can talk over of how to do that. There's always a way to do everything. You just got to figure it out, talk it through. I created bonus and incentive offers such as earn 2% when your sales surpass 70,000. Again, it doesn't influence their sales to get higher, but it's a good reward. I mean, they should be rewarded for having good months, things like that. Company can usually afford it. It's a lot of fun. Things like that make it fun to hand out bonuses and even a gift card or celebrate big months. Always good for your company. Great for your company culture. On the bottom of all my agreements, I put that Carpets of Arizona has the right to change its pay structure with a 30 days notice. So I never wanted to be locked into a certain way that we do things. I wanted to let my people know that, you know, here's the pay agreement now. We will let you know if we're going to change it and give you 30 days notice. So if they don't like it, they can go someplace else. We can discuss it, but that was our system. So, and that helped out a lot, gave us the flexibility to change, which we did a few times over the years. And I'm sure my son has changed it too since he took over the company. So if you want to talk to me and get more information, you can go to jerrylevinson.com and you can see on the bottom it says request a free discovery session. So go reach out to me and you can request a free discovery session that we can go over your pay schedule. We can discuss what kind of coaching or consulting that we offer, and if that's right for you, how you can raise your prices, how you can improve your marketing. So soup to nuts. I ran my own flooring business. I know what it's like. I know what a lot of you guys are going through. So it's very important to have good processes and systems. That's the way you grow your company, grow it in a profitable way so you can hopefully sell it someday. All right. Hey guys, thanks for joining the call. Well, let me open it up. If any of you guys have any questions, let me open it up real quick to any questions. Oh, I just muted everybody. Unmute everybody. Mute all, unmute. I don't know if I could just unmute everybody. I can't do it with one button. There you go.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your thoughts on you're talking about, paying on, percentage and depending on what the gross profit is. We sell some floors that are like really high end. Like we purchase them at like 15 or to $20 a square foot. And it's like, the margin, we usually don't put like the normal margin that we would on those types of projects and stuff like that. And so, so basically we could have a really high ticket price, like a great like profit margin, but not a great margin level, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, well, I would adjust my percentage of margins. I mean, you might be in a position where you're paying 7%.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah. I mean,
if they
it would
go
take,
over 40% margin, then bump it up to 8 or 9%. As long as you can you do all the job costing as well, so you kind of know where your
yeah.
profit margins are at. And they measure the full job. It's not, they don't get paid on materials and then labor separately. It's a job. It's the full job.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So I've seen some crazy systems that are hard to follow and hard to track, and it just makes creating payroll a hell of a task, unless you got good software that figures it out for you. It also lacks the influence that a simple 10% offers. Like I said, I could see at a glance, I made 59,000. I'm going to get a $5,900 paycheck, and I'm excited about that. It's kind of hard to get excited when you have no clue what your paycheck's going to be next month.
Hey, Jerry,
Yeah.
what has been your metric for determining when it's time to bring another salesperson on?
Oh, that's a great question. It's usually before you need them. You got to anticipate it. Okay, so a couple things about that. One, under this system, a new salesperson doesn't cost you any more money, and you're providing much better customer service, and you get better showroom coverage. So, under a straight commission system, and even guaranteed a minimum, it costs you nothing, because if the company has 700,000 in sales 1 month, then 70,000 commission is going to be paid out. How that's divided up depends on each individual sales performance. If you have 300,000, then it's, 300,000, then 30,000 in commissions are going to be paid out, and that could be divided between 6 people. So this kind of system, it gives you the flexibility to hire somebody else. And it comes down to both showroom coverage and the amount of sales you're doing. So, but you definitely want to try and get out there before you need them, because what happens is when you need them, you end up hiring somebody that they're difficult to train. Getting them up and running is complicated. You're so busy, and that's why you hired them, but you don't have time to work with them or train them. So hiring them a little bit ahead of the game is always smart. And then having some tasks in place so they can keep busy and do some stuff like calling customers back, like going to networking groups. One of the biggest challenges of hiring people is keeping them busy. So that's what will be happy, is if they're busy versus being bored.
That's been my issue. Is I have even with the marketing, there seems to be almost a shortage of leads in my area. Now, I'm not a showroom business. You and I met at the Footprints conference, um, but I'm interested in. I mean, I have somebody that I have in mind that I really feel would do a great job. I'm just afraid of bringing somebody on, not having the leads to give them, not having the opportunities to give them, and then they walk because of lack of opportunities. So,
Sure, and they will. And one time I hired somebody who wasn't the greatest salesperson because I knew I didn't have a lot of leads. So if I had hired an aggressive, really good salesperson, they would have gotten bored. So I wanted to hire somebody that wasn't dynamic and good, the normal salesperson I would hire. So now, when you hire somebody like that, you can say it's their job to prospect, but I'm telling you, unless you tell them exactly how to prospect, this is the people I want you to visit. These are the people I want you to see. This is how I want you to keep track of the people that you're seeing. This is the weekly scorecard I need to make sure you're doing that you fill it in. You got to be very specific about what you want them to do. And it's really tough without a showroom, without having that home base for them to go to. That's one of the things I love about having a showroom. Just as a business person, I like having that home base. It's not necessary for your business, but it does help when you're hiring people, managing them, to have a place that everybody can meet, talk to, and plan your day out.
what would you feel is the minimum number of leads that you would need for you to justify hiring somebody?
The minimum number of leads. It'd be nice
Or
if somebody was going on at least 5 a week, I would say.
okay.
So, and with footprints, you guys are doing installation only? It
Yeah,
really,
we sell material as well, but more, we're selling out of a truck, not from a brick and mortar.
yeah, it really is a marketing game. I mean, if you have a good marketing system of getting leads, then especially one with a person, that's a killer system. That's a great way to go.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah,
but
oh yeah. I'm
yeah.
sorry. So I'm coming from a smaller showroom where the owner was everything at one point, but now we have a sales team of three plus the owner and a warehouse person. But the owner of the showroom, is still kind of financially backing her personal life and business through the same account a little bit. So
Yeah,
some of her personal stuff is coming through the account.
sure.
Which I'm sure a lot of showrooms have done, in the past before they've grown. Do you have a solution as to what, does she pay herself more? Does she add herself into the commissions? What do you
Yeah,
think
I
about
mean, some
that aspect?
people. There's a guy, Bill Schober, who pays himself commission, but he's one of the top salespeople.
Right.
So
So is she.
yeah, so you can do it that way and have that kind of structure. I mean, it's a good, fair structure. That's certainly the prerogative of the owner. She could pay herself however she'd like. The fascinating thing about that, one of the things you want to look at with your business is what's your break even. So if you're paying commission salespeople, they don't factor into your break even costs, because your break even cost is a multiple of your total expenses. I would take your total expenses and multiply it by 4. The expense of a salesperson is only generated through their sales. So without a sales, there's not an expense, there's not a commission, especially if people are doing this kind of system where they're based on 100% commission.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
kind of like supplies, if you're buying materials, there's not an expense to materials unless something's sold. So, and we base that formula is based on selling at a rate of about 40% and paying out a 10% commission. So we
Gotcha.
figure if our expenses are, say they're 20,000 a month, then my break even is 80,000. I need to do at least 80,000 in sales to break even.
Yeah. Because I mean, right now we're right around 40, but when I say three salespeople, it's really two plus a front desk, but we're going to include that in the sales. for right now until the knowledge is gained through how to sell
Are you
properly.
guys
Yes.
are you guys selling in the home?
A little bit. We tried to a little bit more, but it's mainly full turnkey service. So we're lagging in, turning over the quotes in terms of on site.
Let me ask you a question. When you somebody if somebody emails that they want a quote, how fast do you get back to them?
Emails, once we get the details, everything is there.
No,
We
no,
get that
no. What
right
do
then.
you like somebody says, hey, can I have a quote or in-home estimate? If somebody emails or messages you, how fast do you get back to somebody if they message you?
Instantly. We ask them what product would they like, and
Why do you get back to them
and
instantly?
because if the information's already provided, there's no reason why we shouldn't get it back to them instantly.
Do customers respond well to that?
It's hit and miss, I would say. It really is hit and miss. The more it seems like the more time that people are willing to put into the process, they're more willing to close the deal. Rather than, hey, can I get an estimate for 1,200 feet of Shaw's Endura Plus, something like that. And then you send them a quote and you get no response. Even through follow-ups, you get no response. So it's hit and miss.
Right. Okay.
But I will say the time spent into it is less, so you're able to turn over more quotes that way. But
Most people realize that when you get back to them quickly, you're able to go out and give an estimate, and sometimes people take longer to get back. And my argument for that is, well, if they value that speed of service that you get back to them right away, they would probably also value the fact that you give them a quote in the home just for getting the information. And it's not to be a hard salesperson, it's giving somebody an opportunity to buy now.
I
And
got you. Yeah,
you'll see
absolutely.
a huge change in closing rates going from emailing a quote to closing in the home to giving them an opportunity, because I'd rather buy from you than buy from your email.
Okay, makes sense.
So if the biggest change that people make is giving a price easy. It's not about being lower price. It's just make it easy to give a price, give it in the home right in front of them, and ask them if they want to go with the order.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
the
our showroom is
change.
based on the strategy of a full design center too, which we deal with a lot of higher end custom builds and stuff like that. It's very little, I'm looking for your cheapest possible product or
Yeah.
anything like that. So
So, yeah, you ought to have her reach out to me and maybe get on the call too, and we can talk to you guys about, there's a way that you can improve that closing rate and bring some new people.
absolutely. All right, sounds good. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Does anybody else have any questions or anything? Just, I don't know anything about whales, but anything related to this topic I can handle. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on the call. I appreciate it. Need that feedback. I needed your questions, and so I want to make sure that this information is clear. You understand it. And if you do have any questions for me, just reach out to me. All right.
Thanks a lot, Jerry.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.